Hi everyone, welcome back. Let's write some more Leetcode today. Today we are solving rabbits in forest. So the problem states that there's a forest with an unknown number of rabbits, and we will ask n number of rabbits the same question, which is how many rabbits have the same color as you? And the answer will be collected in an integer array called answers, and each element in answers represents the response. So given the array that we got, we want to return the minimum number of rabbits that could be in the forest. So if we look at this example, the minimum is 5 because this rabbit said 1 and this rabbit said 1. So maybe they're both saying that each other has the same color as them. And this rabbit says 2. But since this is a different response from these two rabbits, they cannot be the same color. So this rabbit and two other rabbits combined is 3 rabbits, and there's 2 rabbits here, so we return 5. If we look at this example, the output is 11 because these 3 rabbits could potentially all be the same color, and they're all each saying that there's 10 different other rabbits with the same color as them. So we return 11. So now that we have seen some examples, let's get to how we can solve this problem. So let's go over a few more examples with pictures before we move on to the explanation. So if we look at this example, if each of the rabbits says there are 4 rabbits with the same color as them, at minimum there will be 5 rabbits. So let's just say the color is blue, and they say there's 4 other blue rabbits. So it will be 5 here. But if we add one more rabbit, it cannot be 6 because each rabbit says there's only 4 other blue rabbits. So if a 6th rabbit answers 4, it cannot be blue if these 5 says blue. But he could say red. And if it's red, then that means there's 4 other rabbits that are red, which assumes that there will at least be 10 rabbits in the forest based on these rabbits' responses. So what we can do is we can make a hash map for the number of rabbits that have made a certain response. And then we will loop through the hash map, and then we will use this formula and add it to the resulting variable that we will keep track with. And then in the end, we can return whatever the result variable is. So for example, this one, we would plug in 4 for answer, and then we will plug in 6 for count, because there's 6 people who answered 4. So as you can see, the count will be 6, which comes from these 6 rabbits who answered. And then this part will cover the 4 remaining rabbits. And also, there's also an edge case. If this turns out to be 0, then we only need to add the count. We can eliminate all of this because this is assuming there's a remainder. So if the remainder is 0, then we will just add count to result. So now let's go over this example. So first we'll make the hash map. 1 rabbit said 5 and 6 rabbits said 4. And now we will loop through the hash map. So first we will look at 6, plug in the formula, we will add 10 to result. Then we look at the second one, we use this formula, we get 6, so we add 6 to result. And now we have come to the end, so we can return 16 as the result. And the time complex will be O of n because it will take linear time to loop through the hash map, and the space complexity will also be O of n because the hash map will take up to n space. And n stands for the number of responses by the rabbits. So now let's get to the coding part. So first we will set the hash map, so we'll call it count, so counter of answers, and then we'll initialize result to 0, and then now we will loop through the items and count. So answer and count for count dot items, and then if it has a remainder, then we will use the formula I mentioned earlier. So result plus answer plus 1 minus count modulo answer plus 1 and plus count. Otherwise, if no remainder, then we only need to add count. And then we can return result. See if it works. Okay, perfect. Hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the comment section, and I hope to see you all again soon.